Hello, how are you today? I'm Dr. Karen Hiltz, and I usually speak on education issues. And today I'm going to tie the issue to education, but I really want to speak more today about what's going on in our country. As like many people, it really concerns me with all the chaos, and I'll agree that it is anarchy. There are people who are out there destroying other people's lives, their economic viability, their choice to open a business and try to get ahead and make something of themselves in life. And from an education perspective, I think that it is reflective of the education system that we have in our country today. Education is the foundation for our lives. It helps shape what we think, the information that we consume, the way we treat people comes from how we act when we gather together. And this all ties to the economy of our country. There is a direct connection between education and economy. Now, you'll hear people and pundits say that jobs is what's important for people. And I agree with that. I think that in our society, in our capitalist society, we have the privilege of working to build something that enriches our lives personally, as well as who we choose to share our enrichment with. Now, there are some experiences that I've had in my life that I wanted to share because I think they relate to what's going on now. I think that too many people have lost the teaching of being respectful and helping one another. We've become very individualistic, and we've become very litigious in our communities and our society today. And I don't think either one of these is helpful. Yes, we all have individual talents, we have individual skills, dreams, goals, aspirations, and we should have those. But when we are blessed to be successful, not only professionally and personally, but from a monetary perspective as well, then I believe we should have the freedom to choose how we want to share our abundance. And there, again, not only does it go down to the education that we've received in our lives, throughout our lives, but it also boils down to what foundation do we stand on. I happen to believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe that the Word of God has meaning and relevance in our life today. And a couple of things that the Bible does speak to is that we are to love our neighbors. And there are many, many, many examples out there of people loving their neighbors and providing for their neighbors. But there's, right now in our society, too many people who are destroying their neighbors and ruining their lives, both physically and economically. I'm sure that some of these anarchists didn't wake up that morning and expect to hurt someone, stab someone, maim someone, kill someone. But it did happen. And there are consequences to be paid. And if we don't teach people to think before they act, then this is what we get. I believe, anyway. There again, let me go back to a couple of examples. My family is a diverse family. We have different cultures and different races or ethnicities in our family, in my immediate family, as well as my siblings. And so I grew up with diversity. I went to school with Black children, with Asian children, with Hispanic children. But more importantly, I joined the Navy when I was 18. And that exposed me to the world, because I had the privilege of not only serving my country, but living in a foreign country as well. And then traveling in foreign countries, many foreign countries. So this exposed me to different cultures, different environments, different ways of life, and how people view and perceive their reality, their world around them. And one of the things that used to irritate me so bad when I did live overseas was that too many Americans who would be stationed overseas expected America in the country that they were sent to. Well, America is unique. And when you go outside of the borders of the United States, we should not expect America. And from my perspective, if you don't want to live in another country and be respectful and appreciate the culture of being immersed in that culture and what it benefits you from a learning experience, then don't go. Now, you may say, well, the military sends you where they want you. And there is some reality to that. My husband and I were in positions where we had the opportunity to choose where we wanted to go. But there again, we need to learn to embrace the culture that we are immersed in and respect it and learn from it. Learn that we are different, but we all are human beings as well. Another experience I had, which was last year in 2019, my husband and I went to Europe to visit friends, as well as go to the 75th anniversary of D-Day in Normandy, which was awesome. But anyway, we stopped in London to visit friends, and there was a family event going on. Friends and family were invited to participate in the christening of a grandchild. And at the after gathering, there was a young British gay gentleman who wanted to speak with me. And I was like, sure, let's have a conversation. He lives part-time in England and part-time in the United States, and because of his job. And he was very interested in the politics of the United States and what I thought, et cetera, et cetera. And at that time, I was an elected official as well, a local level official. And so we had a conversation, and because of my beliefs, we had some differences. But what resonated with me was that even though we had differences, we had a fascinating discussion. He was not rude. I was not rude. We respected each other's position. We listened to each other. And there again, you'll hear many people talk about we don't listen very much anymore. When we have disagreements, we tend to raise our voices and get into a shouting match. And in that environment, no one can hear anyone, let alone get your point across, even though you're having a discussion with someone who you disagree with. But anyway, this young man, that was probably one of the most interesting and insightful conversations that I've had in a long time. And I really, really enjoyed it, and I hope I get to see him again next time we go over to visit our friends. But it was respectful, and it was a discussion. It wasn't an argument on, well, you stand for this and I stand for that, and etc. And I think what we're experiencing in our culture right now in the United States, in our communities, is this lack of willingness to listen, to sit down and have a reasonable discussion, not have it elevate to an argument. I'm an imperfect person, just as all of us humans are imperfect persons. We have faults, we have failures, we have aspirations. But until we can sit down and understand that what binds us together as Americans is the education that we have, the willingness to learn and listen, and how having a job and being part of the economy helps lift all boats. You've heard the phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's what we need to do in America. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. We all have choices. I've made many choices in my life, and some of them good and some of them not so good. But I am here today with the ability to share some life experiences and my feelings with regards to, or opinions, I should say, with regards to human beings, how we interact, how we do reap what we sow, and that it is so, so important that the education of our children who become the adults get an education that provides them or affords them the ability to think, to debate in a civilized manner, not rise to a shouting level, but to engage in that dialogue and not be so steadfast in your position. Because sometimes, and myself included, when I have heard an opposing position, I think, wow, that makes sense, or, oh, I can understand that perspective. Now, it may sway me, it may not, but there again, we need a foundation to stand on. We need to learn and listen. We need to be respectful, and we need to be honest with each other. And so that's my prayer. I pray for our nation and our president and our communities on a daily basis. And my prayer is that we will not be destroying other people's lives. We will not destroy their ability to be economically viable for themselves and their families and their communities. And that we will learn to listen. And it reminds me of many people have talked about Martin Luther King Jr. over the past few weeks, but I'd also like to throw in there Gandhi and Mother Teresa. Those are two other figures that believed in peaceful protests, peaceful interactions with others and stuff. There were some violent things that happened around them, but they didn't let it overrule them or ingrain bitterness or hatred into them. They continued on what they believed was truth. They stood on their foundation and they moved forward. And in the end, they are revered as peacemakers, and they did some great things for their communities. So before we act out and become this band of looters and rioters and anarchists and stuff, let's stop and think what our potential actions are going to do to our fellow brother, our neighbor, our community. And let's do things that lift up, not tear down. So I wish you well, and Godspeed.